Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we're doing an update today on the Blink home security system. I first looked at this about 2 years ago or so, and I've been using these cameras ever since. What I like about them is that they're very inexpensive. You can get started with 2 of their outdoor cameras here along with their sync module for $180, and then you can add additional cameras down the road. They're fully battery powered. In fact, this one is still running on the same set of batteries that I got with it 2 years ago. So there's a lot to like with these things, and the best part is they don't charge you a monthly fee for storing video in the cloud. Once you buy them, you're done paying for them, and that's one of the things I'm always looking for with these home security products, because everybody's got a subscription to maintain a lot of the features that they're selling to you. That is not the case here. So what we're going to do in this video is explore some of the new features of the XT2 camera here, which is their newest product, but also just give you a general update about how the system is working for me. It's not a perfect system. You sometimes do get what you pay for, but for my purposes, it's been very good, and it's something that I think might be of use to others out there who are looking for a lower cost solution to keeping an eye on things around their property. Now, I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that Blink about 2.5 years ago did send me a couple of these cameras along with some of their sync modules free of charge, but I did buy a number of other cameras after that. This camera I paid for with my own funds as well. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it was uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what these products are all about. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. This is the original camera that we looked at back in 2017. These were rated for indoor use only and did not have night vision. They have a little light here that lights up for when it is in the dark. The outdoor camera here does have night vision along with an infrared illuminator, and it is waterproof. If you take a look inside here as I pop open the back of the case, you can see it's got a nice thick gasket here that seals the battery and the electronics in better than the indoor camera does. And I used the prior version of the outdoor camera outside for the better part of 1.5 years. It has been rained on, it's been through super cold winters and snow, wind, you name it, that camera has survived. And I really had no problems with it. It's still working right this second, looking over the backyard. I've got another one out over my driveway as well. The battery life on these is pretty remarkable, but it will vary based on how much activity the camera is getting. So they run on AA's, but they recommend you use lithium AA's only, which will provide more longevity. These are a little more expensive than your traditional AA batteries. It won't work with rechargeables. But generally, you'll get about 2 years out of them for a low, kind of a low volume area. So this camera, my floater, which isn't used all that often, is still running off its first set. My backdoor camera went the better part of 1 year on a set of batteries. But my driveway camera, which gets a ton of activity, I'm swapping out the batteries every 4 or 6 months. So just be aware of that. If you are monitoring a front door or someplace where your camera is going to be continually coming on and recording and transmitting video, those are areas that will really eat down those batteries pretty quickly, and you'll be looking at months and not years as they're indicating in their product marketing. So it's, again, one of those things where your mileage is going to vary. Now, these cameras will not work on their own. You do need the Blink sync module, and you can see what my previous generation sync module looks like here. The good news is that if you bought these a while ago and have the original version of the sync module, the new cameras work with the old modules. And you'll see also that old module has an Ethernet jack on it. The new ones don't. It is strictly working over Wi-Fi. And one thing to keep in mind with the sync modules is that the sync module needs to get in range of the camera and your Wi-Fi. And likewise, the camera needs to be in range of the Wi-Fi as well. Now, even though the sync module will support 10 cameras, you might find yourself having to buy more sync modules based on where you're setting things up. So I have 2 sync modules in my house because I couldn't get all of my cameras in range of a sync module together. So I've got one sync module on this end of the house and another one on the other side of the house, and those sync modules cost about $50 a piece. So just be aware of that. So you got to have Wi-Fi to the camera, you need to have the camera connected to the sync module, and the sync module also needs Wi-Fi. They do give you some signal guides on the app to better get things situated, but just be prepared, you might have to buy a second sync module. Now they have a nice mounting bracket with the new XT2 camera. It just screws into your door frame or whatever else you're trying to monitor. The camera will snap onto that mount, and you can easily take it back off again to swap out the batteries. And the cameras will also stand up on their own. So what I use this white camera for here is kind of a floater. So if I want to make sure the kids aren't getting into something that they shouldn't, I can just set the camera up by placing it down on a desk like this, and it will do what it does. And likewise, you can do the same here with the outdoor cameras. So you can very easily relocate them so long as they are within range of their sync module. So let's take a look here at the app. What you'll notice at the top here is the Ring Neighbors icon. And the reason why it's got some Ring branded stuff on it is because Amazon acquired Blink a little while back and brought them into the same home security umbrella as some of their other products like the Ring doorbell and cameras that they offer. Now, as I mentioned, I have two different sync modules here to connect up my cameras. So my front door and my driveway are on one sync module, and then the backyard and some of the studio stuff here is on another sync module. And that's something, again, you've got to keep in mind, and you will be separating out your cameras based on which sync module they are attached to. Now, you have the option to take a quick photograph to see what's going on in the yard. So if I hit the photo icon here, my first generation outdoor camera here will take a picture, and it will update the thumbnail here that you see. You'll also notice it does take a while for those images to get updated. It's not a very quick process here. Now, what I can also do is hit the video icon here, which will monitor what's going on outside in real time. And what I could even do here is flip my phone around, and you can get a better sense of the image. So this is a live view coming off of that front camera. And what will happen is that after maybe 10 or 15 or 20 seconds or so, it'll ask me if I want to maybe stop watching it. And the reason is that this is consuming a lot of battery life when it's doing that sort of thing. Now, one thing they added with the new outdoor camera is that you can now record what you were monitoring live. So if I go over to the front door, which has the new second generation outdoor camera, and I go to monitor the outdoor video like I was a second ago on the other camera, you'll notice here I have the option to save what's happening here. And I also have the ability to push a button here to talk to somebody outside. This is a push-to-talk scenario here, so you push down the button to talk and let go, and then you can listen to what the person says to you, but it's not a two-way conversation. And then when I'm done watching this here, I can click close, and that entire transaction now will be available to me in the saved recordings folder, which we'll take a look at here in just a second. Now, the audio quality from the speaker on the camera is not terribly loud, but it's adequate. You can hear what it sounds like here.
Hey, you, get off my porch.
So it's enough to have a conversation with somebody when they step up to the door, and the cameras can be triggered by motion so that you'll know somebody is there, and we'll get into that here in just a second as well. Now, you'll notice in my home group right now that the cameras are disarmed, but if I check off this little box here, what you will see is that the cameras will activate their motion detection, which is indicated by the little man running here. Now, right now, if either one of these cameras detects motion, I will get pushed a notification, and it will send a recording up to the Blink cloud. So if I click on that notification on the phone, it will take me over to that recording so I can see what's going on. So it records first and then uploads, and there's some ways you can configure that recording, which I'll show you in a second. But if you don't want all of the cameras in the group to detect motion, you can turn them off individually. So right now, the driveway and the front door are activated, but if I tap on the little man icon here, that will disable the motion tracking just on the driveway camera. So you do have some degree of adjustability here, so it's not an all or nothing kind of scenario. And there's also some scheduling that I'll show you in a minute. Now, if we click on the little settings icon here, that will bring us to another screen where we get a little more detail as to what we can configure. So one of the nice things about the cameras is that they have thermometers on them. So if you had a camera in a home that you're not always occupying, you can have it set an alert so that if you get below a certain temperature, you'll know that you've got a problem. Likewise, you can also set a heat alert, so if you're going above 90 or 95 degrees, you know you might have some other issues to deal with as well. So you do have some ability to go beyond just basic motion tracking there. Motion detection, as you can see on this camera, is enabled. They also have activity zones, and then on the newer cameras, you can get even more granular with your settings here. So if I go to advanced, you can see that it zooms in, and I can set subzones inside of those motion detection zones as well. So if there's a tree moving in one spot that's setting off your camera quite a bit, you can get in a little bit finer detail there in disabling some areas. And you can see right now the areas that are not gray in this photo are what it's detecting, and I disabled a small portion of the upper portion of the porch there, but not the entire thing. So you can really get in there and start doing some very granular stuff. Now, retrigger time is how often the camera will retrigger after it goes off. So for example, if my camera were to detect some motion at the moment, it'll record, it will shut off after doing that recording, and then it's going to wait a certain amount of time before it starts recording again. So right now the camera's on its default setting of 10 seconds, but you can have it go up to 60 seconds, but there is still a retrigger time that will happen here. I can also set a clip length. Right now the clip length is at its default of 5 seconds, but I could maybe make that go to 10 or so, and you can see it's pushing an alert to say that if you do record 10 seconds, that will impact the battery a bit. You have some sensitivity for the motion detection. You have to adjust that to get it to where you maybe don't get as many false alarms. And then another option here to consider is having it end the clip early if the motion stops. So for example, if a little bird flies by the camera and then that motion stops, it won't give me a 10-second clip here just as much as what it saw when the bird flew by, and that might be, again, helpful for controlling the overall battery life. You do have some control over the IR Illuminator, and last night with the new camera I went outside to see how it worked, and I found that on a door that illuminator was really blowing me out completely, so I ended up turning it down to low so that when it does kick on, it will at least try to make out some facial features. I was having some difficulty getting it to adjust on the person versus the background, and you'll need to adjust that a little bit. One thing you could do with these cameras is set an Alexa routine or set up some kind of IFTTT thing to maybe turn on a light so that you don't have to use the night vision at all. But I did find the IR Illuminator was really blowing out the nearby subjects. So I could hear them, but I couldn't really see what I was looking at, unfortunately. And you can see what that image looked like here as we're rolling some B-roll over it. You also have the ability, of course, to record audio. You could turn that off if you want. And then you also have a speaker control here.
And this is a test of what the audio sounds like at the door.
I found even at the highest setting, it's not all that loud, but it's good enough. I had the video quality right now set to best. You can go to enhance, which will look a little bit better, maybe a little less compressed, but overall you're not going to get great video out of these cameras no matter what you do. They do record at 1080p, but the visual quality, as you can see here, just isn't all that great. But for me, it's good enough to get a notification and see what's going on, but it's not going to rival a more expensive security system with HD cameras that is recording all the time. And then at the lower portion here, you do have an indicator as to how good the signal strength is. So you can see how good I'm connecting up to Wi-Fi, along with how good I am connecting up to my sync module, and that is pretty much it. Now remember, these cameras are not always recording. They are only looking for motion events, and they will record very briefly when those motion events trigger off, but they won't be getting a lot of the detail. And if you need that level of security, you're going to need something a lot more robust than these. Now, if I want to switch to another module, I can click on the home thing here, and you can see I've got my Studio Sync module here that comes up next. So you can switch between your sync modules pretty easily. Also in this screen, you have the ability to schedule arming. So for example, I've got my home system here scheduled to arm every day at 8 p.m. just in case I turned it off and forgot to do it. One thing though is that this arming is for the entire sync module, all the cameras on that sync module, and you can't control cameras individually. So right now, for example, we have the driveway disarmed, but the front door armed, and of course the sync module is armed as well. If I were to turn it off now and wait till 8 o'clock, when it rearms, it's only going to turn on the front camera here because that's where I last left it. You can't arm an individual camera, and that's one of the biggest shortfalls of this system and something that continually drives me crazy, that you can't go in and arm an individual camera at specific times. It's all or nothing, or you have to remember to manually jump in and turn that camera back on. Now it stores all of your footage on the cloud. They give you 2 hours of cloud storage, and what you do is click on that little folder icon here in the upper right hand corner of the screen to review what you've got. When you hit the 2 hours like I have, it will delete the oldest clip and replace it with a new one. If you have the XT2 camera, because you can do manual recordings, it will differentiate manual versus what was a motion trigger here. And then to watch something, you just tap on it and it will start playing back. Now, if you want to save a clip for posterity, you can click on Share, and that will pull up the File Share dialog box. This will be similar on Android as well. So I can put it into my photo library, I could email it to myself, I could AirDrop it, and then on Android, of course, you can do very similar things with the clips. But if you don't copy the clip off and you hit that 2-hour limit and that becomes the oldest clip, it's gone forever. So you'll definitely want to go in and download whatever is important to you, because there is no local storage with this system at all. And then you can also do some filtering here, so I could filter it by whether it's a triggered event or a manual event. And I can also look at a specific camera, for example. So if I just want to see what happened in the backyard here, I can select backyard. You can see the backyard is very uneventful here, so maybe I want to look at the driveway now and click done here, and you can see what's going on the driveway only. So pretty easy to get around here. Again, very bare bones, but I think given the price point here and the fact that there's no subscription fee, this is probably adequate for just, again, getting some situational awareness as to what's going on in your home and what maybe triggered something. But for a more robust system, you'll need to spend a lot more money to get constant recordings and a lot more detail to them. Now, given that these are Amazon-owned products, it also works with Amazon's Echo and other devices that support the A word. So if we ask our friend here, show me the backyard.
Okay.
We'll now see an image out of my Blink camera here in the backyard. What I'm noticing, though, with this is that while the old versions of the cameras work fine, the new version doesn't seem to be working at the time I'm recording this video. I tried to use it both with this Echo device along with my Fire TV. All of my older cameras sprung up just fine, but the newer camera would only send over audio. So there's still some glitchy things going on here, but it does integrate into the Amazon Echo ecosystem. So if you do have a Fire TV, a Fire tablet, or something else that supports the A word with visual feedback, you can be able to just pull up your cameras by voice. Likewise, you can also integrate things into Alexa's system for routines. So if the camera picks up some motion, you can have it trigger a light bulb, for example. You can also use it with IFTTT. Let's take a look and see what I'm doing with that. Now, Blink at the moment only provides one trigger for IFTTT, which is motion. But for example, you could have a motion event trigger off a light bulb going on, or ensuring that your doors are locked or something like that. What I'm using with mine, though, is the arming feature. So if we jump back out of here, you can see that right now I have it set to disarm my Blink system when I get home, when my phone is in proximity of the house. And then as I'm leaving the house, it will arm it automatically in case I turned it off and forgot to turn it back on again. I also have a couple of push button things set up, so if I'm out and about, I can actually arm it from my watch using the IFTTT Apple Watch, for example. But again, you can't arm a camera individually, only all of the cameras on an individual sync module. So that's, again, my big frustration here, is that there's not enough granularity to the syncing here, but you do have the ability to do some pretty cool stuff with Blink here. I've been also experimenting with my door locks here, because I do have people who have authorization to use my smart lock come in, and what I've done with the system is turned off the camera I'm using here in the studio when somebody has been authorized on that lock, and unlocks it, and then it rearms it after they lock it again. So there's a lot of stuff that you can play around here with IFTTT, and Blink seems to integrate pretty nicely with it. So that's going to do it for this look at the Blink security system. This is not the best system on the market by far, but it's the one that I use the most after looking at these things for the last 6 years, primarily because it's very simple to set up. There's no wiring to run. The batteries last a good long time on these cameras. Again, this one's still going after 2 years. And I get everything I need without having to spend a monthly fee to get it. So when the UPS guy pulls up in the driveway, I know he's here. I know who's at the door. I can now talk to who's at the door. I can even unlock the door with my other door lock thing and let them put a package inside and then relock it, all through a communication through the camera. And I'm doing all of that without having to incur any expense to do so. And that, to me, is a big plus and makes up for a lot of the shortcomings that this product has. But if you do need something more robust, you probably should look at getting something installed that can record 24/7. There are some great security systems out there that will cost significantly more than this. But if you just need the basics with some notifications and a little short clip every once in a while, I think these things are definitely worth taking a look at. They've worked very well for me over the last 2 years. Until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters, the Four Guys with Quarters podcast, Chris Allegretta, Tom Albrecht, Mike Talbert, Brian Parker, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit lon.tv/s.